Hey guys, this is Dardamos with Dardamos Dominions, and I'm back with the winner of our game, Gazlov. Gazlov, how are you doing?
Pretty good, thank you.
During this episode, Gazlov, I'd like to go over some of the things that you think that you've done correctly, the things that you did incorrectly, and then some of that we're going to briefly go over the other players and see what they could have done. So the first hit, why do you think that you won this game? What was the secret behind your winning and not somebody else?
Well, of only a very small part of the game was I teamed up against, and it was at the tail end of one player, the Helheim player, wanting to get out of the war. And so, for the most part, I got to 1v1 my way to victory.
Now, if you could do this over again, what would you have done differently to have won harder?
Well, I think the overall strategy was correct. I should have been a little more cautious fighting Helheim.
Okay. And when you're
I should
talking about
have.
Helheim, the you're talking the fort battle, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I should have tested him to see what his which magic research paths he went up. I was overconfident in what I thought he was going to do, and it really crushed my troops there.
If we go to the first battle that you had, you attacked Marverni first. Do you think that was do you still think that was the right target?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was such an obvious first target.
Was there
The
anything that
only
keep going?
the only other target would have been Arcos. If Marverni wasn't in the game, it would have been Arcos Cephali. He would have been even better a first target because winning meant I would get air gems instead of nature. But both nations are very powerful astral nations, and that's super super dangerous for a nation like Manheim.
Is there anything that Marverni could have done to have stopped what happened to him?
I hope not.
Did
I would say maybe had he not been teamed up against, or if he had a strong early ally with him, like if he were able to convince Pangea to fight on his behalf, that maybe would have worked. He said so. Joe Brandon said there were some things that he thought he could do, but he didn't really elaborate. And I feel like it happened early enough that it was kind of a no-win condition for him. But I don't know. Maybe another game he would come out and surprise all of us. I'm not sure. The thing is, getting killed turn 12 or whatever turn it was, 15, 16, you don't really have a lot of tools at your disposal. So if your troops are not as strong as the other nation's troops, it's kind of over for you.
The only thing that I can think of is if he would have started just recruiting indies wherever he could or whatever troops he could, shoved them into his capital and got his defense strength up as high as he could to give him 2 or 3 more turns to get that critical research up and going. And then hope that somebody backstabbed you. Because I'm with you. I don't see
Could
it.
have worked. That could have worked.
But that's rolling the dice and hoping for help.
Yeah, and but it also happened so fast, because he had both me and Helheim attacking him. That he just, I don't know. I don't know what he could have done.
And one of
I
the
don't think it's his fault in any way that he lost. Like it was
yeah,
circumstance.
I mean it's one of the things I really like is that good players will go back and say there's something I could have done different. I might not have been able to win, but there were at least things I could have done better. Hey Toolbox, how are you doing, dude?
Nope.
Oh, we'll get him going eventually. He's our Pangea player from Road to Eternity.
Sweet.
And he got rushed, but he didn't get double rushed by elves. And I'm not sure if there's like it's like I said, like there's always something you can do to improve your game, even if it's just a little bit, and even if it wouldn't have been able to have won it. And I really would have liked to have known from Joe Brandon what he could have done differently, and if he thought that it was an improvement that would have caused more casualties, or if it was an improvement that would have made him last longer, or if it would have been something that would have kept him in the game, like as a competitor.
If he had some spear chucker indies, those are pretty decent against Van Heers.
So yeah, I mean,
maybe he could have done that.
do you think that you got enough territory out of that fight? Was there something that you could have done to have gotten more?
Well, I honestly, the objective with that war was not to gain territory; it was to eliminate the threat. So it wasn't supposed to be a profitable war, even though it turned out to be. It was more of an, it was an uh,
Existential.
yeah, threat to to my nation, and so he had to go. Otherwise, I had no shot.
Now, with the Yomi battle, was there anything that you could have done differently? Because we saw with the first battle when you took, I think it was this fort, that the battle turned out differently in the replay, and it would have been, if not a big loss, at least a loss for you.
Yeah, that one was dumb because I put that necromancer in the very back. Shouldn't have done that. I wasn't counting on flying Dione. I needed to move him up a little forward. I needed to spread out my commanders. That was really poor scripting on my part. And it turned out, I guess I got lucky that I captured that fort.
Would you have done anything differently in the grand strategy of things? Did you think that you were aggressive enough? Did you feel that you had done everything that you could in this case?
I really think so. I really think I made the right calls.
I tend to agree with you on that one. I didn't see anything other than a small scripting error that always, that's kind of Dominion's is games are made or broken by a small scripting error.
Now, I think there was a pitfall I almost fell into, and that was not attacking Helheim. I almost invaded Machaca instead, and that would have been a huge mistake.
Okay,
and the reason for that,
yeah,
the reason for that is because Helheim was intending to invade me, and against elves, it is way better to be on the offense than defense. And I would have had all my forces and raiders, on the wrong side of my empire, and he would have just eaten me alive.
So you think that he would have attacked you either way? Do you think he would have attacked you, or do you think?
No, he would have attacked me.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he would attack me. And if I had kept the nap and I had started the war with Machaca, he would have ended the nap. I would have been tied up, and he would have been able to strike at me without me being able to strike back. And see, the way it happened, I was able to shut down his economy, which really put pressure on him to get out of the fight.
Do you think that Dominions is more favorable towards the attacker or the defender?
I think it depends on the nation. I think for elves, it is far, far better to be the attacker, because the enemy gets, they can't see you, they don't know where you're going, they don't even know when it's going to happen, and it keeps your resources and your gold flowing, which is really, really important because your units come at a premium versus other nations. And so if you're the one on the defense, if you're the one that has really bad income because of all the fighting going on in your lands, you're eventually going to attrition out and die to just about anybody. So it's really, really important as an elf nation that you get on the offense.
To go further into the Helheim conflict, when you went to war with him, it was your choosing to do so, and he might have incentivized you to do that or provoked you to do that. But do you think that was the right move to do, and to go after him was the correct move from what you're saying, correct?
Yeah.
But
And you got to remember, all these players are talking. Like, everybody's talking with everybody. And everybody is trying to convince everybody else to team up against somebody, right? And, I suspected when he started some aggressive vulturing, I suspected he was going to team up on me with somebody. And and so once you have that gut feeling, you really need to act on it and shut down one of the potential aggressors as soon as you can.
with this battle, even though he didn't start it, it seemed like he did have a chance to at least do some damage to you. But for the most part, he was kind of on the back foot. Why do you think this is? I mean, it doesn't seem like he has a worse nation. Is Helheim just inferior to Vanheim?
That's what I like to believe. A lot of people disagree with that.
Why do they think that?
So the reason, well, I think it's because Helheim has a much higher win rate than Vanheim,
Okay.
based on recorded games. Like, I don't think, but see, here's the thing: I don't think anybody reported this one. So
I don't really
everybody-
look at, it just might be the Helheim players are more likely to report their games than the Vanheim players.
yeah, there are all sorts of reasons. Now, normally though, Helheim is a much better raiding nation. Even though they're both great raiding nations. Helheim is slightly advantaged in that because their sacreds are great raiders. But he had a very interesting build where I think he only had 4 Dominion. So he was not pumping out a lot of his sacreds, which really limited his ability to fight, honestly. He was going to go on the research advantage, and while you still have to have a central army that has mages and magic and stuff, you also need to raid very well. And he really kind of hamstrung his raiding efforts with his build.
His overall goal was to get his defense really high, but what's interesting is 24 is still, it's still there, like it's still within grasp. And while I did like his strategy, and I think that we might have been able to see it pay off against another nation, especially against your Van Herses, it seemed to be just generally a bad matchup.
Well, between my +2 attack and then Blood Surge, that's another +3. I've got +5 attack on my regular thugs. And then when you look at these dudes, they go berserk. That's another +5, and so they end up with +10 attack.
Like
On a decent attack already, so 22 attack, and if they have experience, it'll be 22 attack. And their 2 attacks. These guys are great at just killing things. I mean, this is what they do. Now, they don't have the survivability. If you don't go with bark skin, they kind of die fast. But they take care of problems. They take care of these, early super combatants. They take care of these high defense units, unless you're in darkness and you have a stupid formation.
And that's one interesting thing. If he would have brought darkness here, the fight may have gone in his favor.
I think so. Can you play that one again? What kind of penalties? Is there a... I know in Deep Ocean there's a darkness penalty.
You do not have one.
Lakes.
Yeah, it's. I looked at it and it's a -3 from underwater, and that's it. Now,
Yeah.
Darkness would have dropped it to another, what, -4?
-6, I
Oh,
think.
jeez.
So yeah, these guys.
And so the -3 would have been a wash. And where the -6, is there a minus to your defense skill in Darkness?
Yes, there is.
But he's got Spirit Sight, so it doesn't
But
affect
he
him.
does. That's right.
Whereas you don't.
That's what makes these things so amazing under Darkness. And that is something I didn't really count on. I think if he played again and he did a similar build, he would be pretty successful with it. Now, that was a big screw up. Yeah, so instead of doing that, which actually just massacred his own guys because it popped all their glamour, he should have cast Darkness. And that's kind of scary because he might have won that.
He can cast Darkness right out of the box too. I think it's like he needs a Skull Staff, isn't it? Is it Death 4 or is it Death 5? I thought it's Death 4, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's surprisingly low and easy to cast.
And so if this guy, he's already Death 4, so he could have either way he would have been able to get to Death 5 ridiculously easy, and he would have been able to cast Darkness. And I'm kind of curious if he had Darkness here, if he would have won or if he would not have. And that's kind of an interesting. I mean, it almost makes me want to pull up Arena and see if it would have happened. But I think you're right. I think that if it wouldn't have won it for him, it would have at least been closer.
I think it would have won.
I think you're right.
Now, dude. he did say that he was kind of caught unprepared for defending this throne.
Okay.
So I don't know if maybe he. I don't know. I mean, can this guy? He can cast Darkness, right?
Absolutely. If he's a Death 4, I could go look it up real quick.
What is it's alteration?
Alteration, yeah, it's alteration. Death 4. So
I don't know why. I don't know why he didn't do that. I mean, maybe he wanted to lose. I really have no idea.
I wish I could get him in here because I do know that he's still active. I talked to him the other day. I might go over and ask him why he didn't cast Darkness on this last one, because that's the win right there. Or at least a better shot at the win. He ended up killing all your mounted herdmen, 2 of your Vanheers, and this ratio is really good. He killed all of those mermen. The only thing that really did the killing was your Vanheers, which may have been able to do it, but at a lesser rate. And then the I think you're right. I think Darkness would have turned this battle. I think Darkness would have won it for him. And what's really interesting, dude, if you see it, his leader killed nothing. So he could have done this entire battle with the leader sitting in back the whole time, and the results would have been the same. My big question is, what is he's got a white mage in here. And this guy can cast Darkness too. Summoner.
Yeah, I don't know. That's so strange. Maybe he just messed up. Maybe he panicked.
Horde of Skeletons. Wow. If he cast Darkness instead of Horde of Skeletons right there, he arguably is able to win. Oh, and then Marble Warriors didn't go off. Did it? Oh, no, it did. They've got 22 protection. No. Is that Marble Warriors is 15 protection?
Yeah.
Okay, so he did get Marble Warriors off, and I think what he was trying to do was just make these guys uber, but, getting Darkness would have done better. I
think so. Yeah, against these axe guys, you really just want to avoid their hits. Their hits, they hit so hard. It's kind of absurd.
And even though his attack is very, very low, I believe. Oh, well, that guy's. Their attack isn't even that low. Eventually, a 15 attack will hit against your 11 defense Vanheers. They'll eventually go through that protection, and eventually these Vanheers will die just from chip damage. Wow. Okay, so theoretically, he stops you here. What do you do?
Yeah, that that would have been super frustrating. So the next thing I've got going for me is consuming Machaca. So we still got this battle. I mean, I think so. Look at Machaca's fight. This I think is the last of what he had.
I agree. I think that this
And
is everything in the capital. So he's done at this point, right?
yeah, so Machaca is beaten.
Did you get what's the spell you cast on everybody?
Air Shield. The God,
Okay,
what's it
so
called?
the oh my goodness, we didn't watch this because this is gorgeous. This is high
Yeah,
level play right here.
yeah. We kind of rushed the final days. It's
Well,
okay.
I mean, we were looking for the throne battles on that last turn, not thinking that I mean, you went through the effort to script everything here, even though you were hoping that it would be a throne rush.
Yeah, because if it failed, I did need a plan B, and there are still 2 thrones over here.
Okay, I am very quickly starting to really like this sleep spell.
Yeah, it's a
Okay, so he's not
bastard.
affected by it. Yeah, I mean it's very effective. And what's interesting is that I mean it can paralyze a whole line. I mean it does work two ways though, where once you kill that front line, you go to the second line, now you're in the fog and now you're being, demolished. But wow, it's really interesting. But yeah,
Yeah, he
you
tried
eventually
to rigor mortis play here.
Oh, you're right, he
Um,
did.
I don't think that's
Well, he
these
doesn't.
guys kill things so fast, and I don't know if fatiguing them out is necessarily the right way to go.
Well, do you think that this was a bad idea, or was it the best bad idea?
I think he should have fought in his fort. If
Okay,
he's going to do a rigor mortis like this, it would have been better to not fight in the open field.
okay.
I mean, don't you agree?
I do agree, but at the very last turn, I would want my last fight.
Yeah, yeah, I see that.
I'm curious if he would have taken that fight if you were not doing a throne rush, and that's a question that I'm not sure if we could get the answer to. I could talk to Sack and see if he would have, but that seems like something where he was doing that as a last ditch. Okay, so we talked about the Machaca fight. Do you think Machaca, and I want to focus on Machaca now. Do you think that Machaca should have attacked? Do you think Machaca should have gone after you like they did?
Well, so clearly that was a mistake of his. He lost his initial army to my pretender, not expecting the foul vapors thing.
Mm-hmm.
Had that not happened, it 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 was probably the right call. Because it would obviously stop me from winning, I think. But let's say he didn't attack me and I wasn't going to win. Who would have been a better target for him? I mean, I still think it's me.
I agree.
Because I mean, there's a lot up here that he, is very profitable.
And I think it goes back to that rigor mortis play. Was it the best of bad decisions? I mean, did he lay out all of the decisions and say none of these are good, but this is the best one that I can get?
Well, what's he backing his rigor mortis up with?
That's don't get me wrong, but
If we analyze this battle, what were the different global or the battlefield spells? I think we have So we got air shield. So that was to counter. So I'm countering his flaming arrows.
Mhm.
Let's see. Howl. Who cast Howl?
It's done by
Both
Howl the
sides.
Enchanter.
Yeah,
um,
that's probably my guy. Because I would I would name someone like that. It's like, here's what you do.
oh, there he is, right there. Yeah, it's yours.
So, okay, did he cast Howl?
I don't think he did.
See, so that's already really bad for him, right?
Yeah, I mean he's
Now,
gonna lose
Rigor
this
Mortis will
automatically.
eventually kill the Howl caster, so maybe that's okay.
I mean, I don't know how Rigor Mortis would kill a Howlcaster. How does that work?
Well, if it because eventually he reaches 200 fatigue and he starts taking damage instead, right?
I don't know. I don't think you do that. In Rigor Mortis, it keeps you at 200. I think. I could be
Okay,
wrong. Maybe you're right.
it will not kill. It will not fatigue kill you.
I don't think it does. I think that normally it's the skeletons. You need something to go out and actually facilitate the killifying. And
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And he doesn't really have that, right?
he doesn't, and it is kind of an interesting. I'm curious as to how he thought he was going to win.
So, I mean, in this instance, the rigor mortis was actually in my favor because I have a better setup to survive it than he did. Because I had Howl. You know, I've got guys constantly popping up on the battlefield fresh.
I mean, maybe he thinks. I mean, hold on. Let me look at his bless real quick. Does he have reinvigoration? No, he doesn't even have a reinvigoration.
Well, he does cast relief. So he's kind of got that going on it. But relief, I don't think completely counters rigor mortis. It might.
And what's interesting is he doesn't even cast foul vapors because foul vapors may even do it. I mean, definitely not against you, against your these Vanheers, but maybe against some of your other guys.
Yeah, my casters at least. It'd kill them.
So yeah, I mean, I don't see what his goal was in this, but I also don't see another option. I don't see any other choice.
So, yeah, I mean, if he were just going out on a blaze of glory, and that may be what he's doing, then that's fine. If he were trying to survive, he probably should have just stayed in his fort.
I agree. Okay, so we talked about Machaka. We talked about we didn't get through Yomi. Was there anything that Yomi could have done to have make sure that they were successful?
Well, so those little guys of him with the clubs, I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah, the Ione or something like that.
How does Yomi get those guys?
Free spawn
they're free spawn. And how does Yomi increase his free spawn?
Dominion, Unrest, Unrest on a temple, and then they also get a little bit from their demon commanders.
Because that's what he needed. He needed those guys. Those dudes buffed with Strength of Giants really, really, I think, outperform Vanheers.
Oh wow!
Against Vanheers. Okay. So I think those guys would have beaten mine. And there was one battle where that was kind of demonstrated.
I think you're right, and not only that, but what really surprised me was that he was willing to spread out his forces. Where he was, you killed him piecemeal.
Yeah, he had 3 turns to prepare.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like he really did.
That's the feeling I got too.
He just kind of went about his business as if nothing were happening. It's kind of strange.
I mean, if I were attacked like that, I would have gotten a full gear set that I knew worked. I would have tested it 100 times versus Vanheers and made sure it worked. And then, it would definitely become a counter game. But at the very beginning, I mean, you don't have a lot of options other than Vanheers. I mean, Vanheers are your go-to. So if he's able to counter it with a low construction, low alteration build, then he just marches on your capital and ends up taking your capital. And then just kills the elves through attrition. And I didn't see that preparation, and it's really sad because I know that Grippa has that ability, and I think he missed out on a golden chance. Do you think he could have won, though?
Well, so it's kind of tough because he's only going to have a few of those Dione. I mean, in this case, he had 7. He already has a problem with money. He was very easy to shut down economically. But as far as... See, I don't know if he could have geared his guys... See, I don't think I had a dwarf in that battle.
You did not.
I was casting Strength of Giants on my guys against him. Because I knew he'd have high protection, he'd have regeneration. I don't know if you could at this stage in the game gear your Dione to survive the hordes of Vanheers I was throwing at him.
I think you could if you were able to do it in a forward defense and put up, like, if he had all 7 of his Diones in his capital when you went in, he caught you at the gate, he got your density way low. I mean, there's a possibility that he could have easily held out against Infinite Vanheers. That's a possibility, though. And I mean, he had that one guy that did a pretty decent job until he got surrounded by, I think he was holding out against 4 sides, but the moment he got, surrounded by 5 or 6, they crumpled at that point.
And that's I think that's right. I think that's the key is make sure your guys don't get surrounded, but that's kind of tough to do. But yeah, in the fort, that's the only place you can really achieve that.
And I'm kind of curious if, and the other thing is he never had a really big set piece battle. He had a couple medium-sized armies that did very well against your Vanheers, but if he would have brought in a couple Diones to expedite the killifying, then I think that he would have done much better. Whereas it felt like he just got killed piecemeal, and I think he lost a couple chances to at least do some serious damage to you. But I think when we talked, because we did talk to him, and a couple of his strategies, like they buffed the fluffers buffed themselves rather than the Diones.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. And so, I mean, maybe if his plans had come to fruition, maybe that would have been a better option. I don't know. But okay, so we covered Yomi, we covered Helheim, we covered Machaka. I'm gonna leave Therados to the end, but I want to touch on this little Arcocephali, this little fight within a fight between Arcocephali, Ubar, and Pangea. I feel that Pangea was very strong in this game, and they had a potential of actually winning.
It kind of bothers me that he took an anti-Uber bless, and he still had trouble with Ubar.
Okay, I take it back. You are rocking in this. Helheim actually has more provinces than Pan does. That's nuts. But yeah, I think you're right. It is really interesting that he wasn't able to finish off, and I think that if we would have seen everything, we could have seen more of why. What could Pan have done differently in this game to have actually won?
If there were a way, he could have just focused on Ubar. But from what I understand, Ubar convinced Arcocephali to help him. And so I don't know. I don't think Pangea fought 2 at the same time. I also think there was a very brief moment in time where he fought Machaka. And then they settled things diplomatically.
What's funny is Machaka is... I mean, if Machaka wins that war, he controls all the way to Pan, Ubar gets bigger, and they both eat. I mean, I guess Ubar could probably just take Arcoscephali's cap, and at that point, it's a fair game. I wonder why Machaca stopped.
Well, I think he was rightfully worried about me. I think he was watching the game unfold, and he could see which nations were rising, and yeah, he's bordered with one of them. It's a very dangerous nation, and I think he really wanted to focus on figuring out how to take that northeastern chunk of land.
Theoretically, Pangaea and Ubar go to peace somewhere around this. They draw their border around here. How does that change the game at the end? Do you think that would have given them a bigger chance to win?
That's kind of what needed to happen. They needed to peace out, and they needed to deal with me. And they didn't, because I don't know what happened here, honestly. Like,
I got to talk to Kirby at some point, because this is really interesting, and I really would like what happens with Nosy is, like, Nosy is one of the best players that I know in Dominions, but he always gets into wars like this. Every single time that I've ever seen him lose, he gets into a war where he's doing very, very well, but he can't finish. And I have this problem too. Whenever it comes to forts, I can't. It just drives me nuts. And he's not able to finish off this war, and because of it, he loses the game, even though he is vastly dominating. I mean, if we look at this, you can see he's winning fairly dominantly, with the second place player being Helheim. And then all of a sudden, he stagnates, and that's the end of the game for him. And what he's stagnating against is this guy down here, way at the bottom.
Yeah, I think when you go to war with someone, it's important to have multiple objectives that you can achieve. In case you don't win, what are your goals? Like when I went to war with Reverny, my goal was to eliminate him because he was the greatest threat to me. But secondary to that, if it weren't going that great for either of us, there's an opportunity that it also, diplomatically, you can eliminate the threat by becoming friends, after fighting.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, well, that also achieves the goal. And, so what is Pangaea trying to do with Ubar? It's like, is Ubar a threat to him, to his ability to win the game? Does Ubar need to kill Pangaea?
Yeah, and like their caps are here and here. I mean, they are not anywhere close to each other. I see Pan actually getting coalitioned more likely if he actually won that war earlier. But the biggest thing I don't understand is, like, Ubar is very cap dependent. Arcoscephali is to some extent, but Arcoscephali just had that big brass statue that, don't get me wrong, it'd be bad for him to come back, but if I were Pan, I would have everything that I had, everything that I could muster to make sure that I had a complete surround, and then I would just go and take the capital with everything I have. Because once Ubar loses their capital, they're done. There's no okay, then we're gonna fight other places. No, you're done. You're not getting your capital back unless you have some force that should have been fighting for the capital. And it's kind of an interesting, I wonder what happened here that made it so he was never able to really attack Ubar's capital.
Yeah, I don't know why he continued to fight, especially if he didn't feel like he was making progress. Because what is he getting out of that? Like, why does he need to fight Ubar?
And I think that it comes down to they started to fight and they couldn't stop. I think I talked to somebody else about this. Kirby is a total war player. Once he stops, you need unconditional surrender. I was talking to somebody that said, like, they were fighting in a game where they didn't even have a border with Kirby. They did something like stopped a throne rush of his or something like that, and Kirby, being elves, snuck troops through other people's territory and started attacking this guy that stopped the throne rush. And maybe that's just the way. Maybe Kirby was like, "I'm going to fight you no matter what." And I've been in those before, where I'm like, I would rather lose the game than go to peace with you.
Yeah, and that is unfortunate. And there are players like that, and that's not a good way to play Dominions, I think. You should always play to win. And, I can understand if you think you can't win, maybe I wish there were a way to just resign and you didn't go AI, right? Like your lands would just vacate.
Oh, okay. So go independent.
Yeah, go back to being independent. I think that needs to be an option in this game because, I do think that it does create the situation where you have spiteful players that, it's like, well, I can't win now because you set me back too much. And so now I'm just going to make sure you can't win either. And that's, and so what are you supposed to do? And if that's the situation, Pangea is not really in the wrong here. So that's why Pangea would have to continue fighting Ubar, because Ubar would never peace out.
Yeah, I'm curious if that's the case. I wonder if Nosy actually contacted Ubar at all. But either way, I mean, the results were defining for this game. I think that we saw two different battles where you are going through trouncing one after another, and meanwhile, Nosy gets stalled out. The big war ends up being between you and Helheim, and you win the important territory from Helheim. Now, interestingly enough, I think Helheim had a shot at this, but I think that one other player that we haven't really talked about yet had, in my opinion, the best chance of winning if this thing had gone much later, and that's Theridos. I was actually really impressed towards the end.
And the interesting thing about this, especially when I was talking with other players, everybody thought that Theridos had the best shot of winning. And so that actually kind of works against Theridos, because everybody was kind of ready to drop what they were doing to fight Theridos, to deal with Theridos. People weren't really ready to drop what they're doing to deal with anybody else. And so even though it looks like Theridos is in the position to win, diplomatically, he kind of wasn't. Because there would be basically global support against him. And that's kind of tough.
What's really interesting is that, we're talking about this global support, and it would have actually brought both wars into again, I mean, it would have brought the world into conflict with each other, and it might have turned this thing into a bigger mix. Now, what I do like is that instead of going for thrones, he's going out here, he's raiding multiple areas. And what's interesting is, theoretically, if you lose this throne battle versus Helheim, I mean, he's solid at that point because everybody's going to turn on you. He takes this throne, he could potentially take that throne, and he just needs one more, correct?
Right. So that's something
right
that
here.
I can use and was using, was that, listen, I mean, Theridos can win this game super quick if we're not all careful. And that was one of the things that caused Helheim to peace out, was that Theridos is just this huge battery that's almost fully charged and ready to strike out. And, it you get a lot of eyes on you when you start having lots of troops. Lots of research and lots of globals. And that's what was happening.
God, you got a kelp fortress here. He was raking in. Oh my goodness. These are the greatest thing for Theridos because they don't have a natural water 2, I think. When I was playing as them, and they're sacred as well. So you get they're cheaper to upkeep and they're water 2. These things are gorgeous. I really liked his later strategy, and I'm kind of curious if this thing would have gone 10 turns, if we could have seen him winning this game. But yeah, I think that he just got involved too late, and I think that he didn't prioritize a targeting correctly. he went after both you and he went after Helheim. The other thing is that it didn't seem like he was aggressive enough with his diplomacy. Because, I mean, look at the shoreline, dude. He's got 2 provinces that he had the whole game. He had this one, right?
Yeah.
So he had these 2 provinces the whole game, and then he turtled up until probably turn 30. And then he erupted after that. I'm curious if he would have started a little earlier, if that would have gone better for him. But you said diplomatically you were all talking about Therados, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody was watching him. Yeah, and I kind of wanted to fight him a little bit just to see. Because, you know, with my magic weapons, his guys die really fast.
It all comes down to the magic and what he could have brought to the board. And the sad thing is, and the thing that's a little scary to me is he never seems to have a lot of magic. In fact, if you see, these things are just these are gorgeous. Oh my goodness. If your monolith had been here, dude, if those 3 would have gotten to your monolith, I think your monolith would have been demolished. Wow, that is a mono-killing group right there, isn't it?
Well, how much fire resistance do they have?
30.
30, yeah. Yeah, they might have killed that monolith.
Okay, well, RCK, if you're out there, this is, that was shiny there. I missed that one, too. But he doesn't have any mages, and this isn't a low commit raid. I mean, this is 81 guys. I mean, they're both 81 guys. Wow, that's
well,
it must
at this
be
point
80.
in the game, I mean, he has like 2,000 troops or something like that total. Just
I don't know. I mean, the thing is that he's got these are his big armies. Don't get me wrong, but I don't see any other troops here. And like 40 guys is not that much. Therados doesn't get the free spawn that other nations do. So I'm kind of curious if this was all that he had. But yeah, interesting strategy either way. Well done on your victory. Is there anything that you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I think it was a good game all around.
Well,
I don't think there's anybody who was just ridiculously terrible.
I think that's one of my favorite parts of this game is that everybody is playing a very smooth, very beautiful game. I think the only thing that I didn't like, I would have liked to seen Argos Sapali taking an aggressive bless rather than a defensive bless. But even that, I mean, had some legitimacy to it. And it definitely did cause losses. So, thanks to all the players that joined up to this game. I really appreciate you guys joining. I really appreciate the interviews that we had beforehand, and just the participation in this. And Gazlov, thank you for wrecking face and showing us how Vanheim can be played. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in a future game.
All right, looking forward to it.
Okay, guys, I'll see you in the next game. Have a good one. Bye.